Hello and welcome to Happiness and Wellness. My name is Geeta Arora and I'm your host. Today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Banafsheh Akhlaghi. She and I have been friends for a very long time, and I am so delighted to introduce her book as well, the Beautiful Reminders that she has written. Banafsheh, welcome to the show, and I am so delighted that you were able to join us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. The delight and the privilege is mine. I'm thrilled to be here with you in this space.
Well, one of the things that I find so amazing about you is that your background is so multifaceted. You've done so many things and accomplished so many things, yet you ended up writing a book about the Beautiful Reminders. And how did you come to this book? And can you share a little bit about how this came about?
Absolutely. So I don't really feel like I wrote the book. I feel like the words came through me. So I don't, it's one of those little sensitive spots for me. You know that my background is, I'm an attorney, civil rights and human rights. And so I've, founded a few organizations that was supporting the Middle Eastern Muslim South Asian community after 9/11 and the way in which they were being treated in the day. And from there, I consulted the United Nations, and in particular, after the war in Iraq, looking at women's and children's rights languishing in Iraq for the parliamentarians and supporting their new constitution. And then I went off and I started doing work with Amnesty International as their Western Regional Director. And at the tail end of 2011, I explored a race for Congress, and then I was done. I was just done. I felt as though I had been running this race of doing what I could for justice, doing what I could for people in various moments of discrimination and various plights. And I decided to take a sabbatical after I went on a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat, silent meditation retreat. And when I came back from that meditation retreat, I thought to myself, I need that time out. And so I did take it. I had the good fortune of doing that for about 9 months. And during those 9 months, Priya, that's when these words would start coming at 2:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And at the time, I had a phone that was right next to my bed, and the phone had like these little keypad on it. And I would just start downloading the words, and then would put the keypad back and set it aside, and off to bed I'd go, and I'd wake up in the morning and I'd read this. And my expression every time that I would read these words were, I needed to hear this. Who's talking to me? I needed to hear these words. And so that was the birthing of Beautiful Reminders Anew.
That is incredible, because knowing your background, you've just helped so many people, and you were really like just not, your life was not like I'm a lawyer and I do law in the daytime and I come home at night and I do other things. It's like 24/7. You're just immersed in justice and law, and having your intellectual side be so apparent. But transitioning into the side, so once you started to have these epiphanies opening up for you, you started writing them down and you started sharing them on social media.
I did.
So did people, how was the reaction? That must have been a little strange for someone that they knew as the intellectual lawyer, now posting things about spirituality and wholeness.
Yeah, so I was really conscious at first. Do I want to do this? I mean, do I want to do this publicly, right? I mean, how my public persona was that I was someone on CNN talking about policy issues of the day, right? I was the one who was in front of the, I don't know, City Hall with 10,000 people in front of me chanting about something that was rights-oriented. I was definitely not talking about our oneness. I was definitely not talking about the spirit within each of us and the brilliance that we are. I was definitely not talking about those things. And what I finally got for myself in the sharing of them was that, okay, so these are not, as I said, my words. These are universal truths. These are words that we would all be able to remember, that's deep within us, whether it's been just kind of silenced a bit, or it's dimmed down a bit. It's of no consequence because there are truths. It's still there. So and that's the, the title of the book, Beautiful Reminders. It's just these beautiful essence of who we are, reminding us of who we are. So I began sharing them, and when I shared them, people had the same reaction that I was having. Wow, I really needed to hear this. Wow, how did you know? This was exactly the moment that I needed this message. And Priya, we've walked this path together. I would come into your spa and I would lie on your bed and you would be doing your Ayurveda work on me. And I would say to you, it's beyond that my brain is tired. It's beyond that my body is tired. My soul is tired because of the kind of work that I was involved in, right? It was taxing to watch human beings being pulled apart from each other, from family members, and detained and alike. And really, I think as I sit in front of you today, for me, it isn't any longer what I do in terms of the law that's separate and segregated from the other aspects of me, which is I would do my spirituality and I would do, I would go to India and you would send me there. And
that's what's so incredible about you, that I would just say, you would ask me, where should I go on vacation? Just speaking out loud. And I would say, do you want to go and visit Sai Baba's ashram? You're like, where's that? And next week you're on a plane.
That's right.
All alone. An Iranian woman who's never been to India is on an airplane to go to an ashram in India.
Yeah.
And that's just who you are. And that's what makes
you
so special too. That you're open and you have your ability to explore avenues and be open-minded about it. And that's an example of what humanity needs today. For people to be open-minded and share each other's cultures and get to know each other as global citizens.
Absolutely.
And not to mention that this book became an Amazon international bestseller. And no doubt, why not?
Thank you.
That's just incredible. So how do you do your work now with all this changing for you?
So
and you're a social entrepreneur as well.
Yeah, so it's really the integration of me. Right? I think that's the critical part of it, is that, as I said, as I sit here before you today, it's no longer I do my policy work and I go to DC and, blah, blah, blah. It really is that it's the integration of it all. And I take it with me everywhere, whether it's being on a legal team for Bernie Sanders' campaign or having a conversation with Congressman Mike Honda over the weekend on education reform. I take this area of my base and my spirit with me into all of those conversations. And so it then creates a different outcome. The outcome ultimately is about, as I said, the connectedness of us, the conscious connectedness of us. And then I also have my practice. And my practice today is focused on the creators and the visionaries and all of those that are out there to move our world forward. Like you, right? Like people who are out to expand our consciousness and inspire that within us. So no longer am I on the defensive end of things. Now I get to actually co-create with my clients and bring their visions to manifest, and we trademark them, and there's copyright issues around them, and so that they can just go and soar and glide and make the difference that they need to in the world, and I've got their back. So that's kind of how it looks, and I've got to say honestly that bringing the totality of myself together and not hiding portions of me and having this is the private part and I'll only talk to my girlfriends about it or my husband or my family about it, but I can now do it, publicly. I'm hoping that creates some kind of a spark in others to allow themselves to have that coming together of themselves.
That's incredible, because now as consciousness is shifting, there are so many creative, conscious human beings out there who
That's
are
right.
wanting change. So nobody's following those old rules anymore,
Right.
or people are, but not. They know it's not working if they are, and it's time for that change to occur. And that's what's so inspiring about you, is that you bring to the table who you are. It's not, and you speak something else and you do something else. It's about the whole package, and that's authenticity in how people can portray themselves out in the world. So what is your message for women? I mean, especially, you've done so much work with women, you've seen what they go through, and still today, women need a little bit of uplifting. What is your message for them?
Just tap into your brilliance, sister. Tap into your magnificence.
I love it.
Know yourself as the creator of it all, and know yourself as the co-creator with the partners that you walk this planet with. Just tap into it. And do it unabashedly. Do it unapologetically. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
I love it. That is so great, because there are so many people who have been programmed and wired a certain way with society, that you're supposed to show up this way, and if you don't do it like this, then people are not going to respect you anymore. And for people who are scientists and researchers and using so much of the left brain,
Yeah.
Opening up to this expansive consciousness,
Yeah.
and tapping into that, it allows so much of finding oneself in it. And that's what I'm hearing in all of what you're saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, listen, I used to be a constitutional law professor. I used to work with the United Nations as a consultant. Like, these are not the kind of things that you do and then also talk about the things that I'm talking about. Like, out there in the world, right? The
Right.
way in which we think it should look. But I'm with you. Something's shifted that, whether it's just the dawning of the ages, right? Whether we hear it also in politics today. We see it in the art forms today. We see it all around us. Something has shifted where that space of just the mind energy isn't going to make the day, right? I mean, listen, Hillary Clinton was in the last debate, correct? And one of the things she started to talk about was how she's not really great at being a candidate, answering a question about her authenticity and about her being someone who could be trustworthy. She left her brain for a moment and tapped into another space to answer that question, right? I think that what we're starting to see is our leaders, our professors, our scientists, our medical professionals, our legal professionals, our business professionals. I mean, Steve Jobs was definitely tapped into that spirit space every time he was speaking and envisioning. And so I think what we're starting to see, and more, it's going to be accelerated, I believe, is the coming together of that eastern part of who we are and the western part of who we are, and the combination and the power of that.
So in hearing all of this, like, you've just come to this place in your life where just extraordinary. Everything about you is really extraordinary, and you are a manifestator. When you think of ideas, and when you think you're a visionary, and when you know that something's not right or something's to shift and change, you do take the steps to make that change. Now, it wasn't always like this for you. What was it like you growing up in America?
Yeah, well, we came to the States prior to the revolution in Iran. So the revolution in Iran, if you remember, was in 1979. And my family and I came in 74. And I was 5 years old. And I'm 47 now. So we've been here a great deal of time. And I've got to say, I jokingly say it, but it's half jokingly and half not. Having been born in Iran and raised in the United States with just a short while at Cambridge University in England, and I came back again for my studies, it's never been comfortable being Iranian in the United States. And definitely, as we sit here today with the events that are taking place yet again. How was it? It was a challenge. I mean, we went through the hostage crisis. That was a challenge. We went through the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. That was a challenge. And then just keep coming forward. But, you know, inside of those challenges, inside of the discrimination, inside of the hate speech, inside of the, you know, vandalism of our home and other things, my home, my parents in our home would ongoingly say to us, we're visitors here, so kind of know that, have a respect for that. And when you are on that side of the threshold, meaning away from the home, you need to speak the language better than they do. You need to understand this language better than they do, you know, because you're the guest here. Until you choose that this is now going to be your home, which means then we became US citizens. And now at this point, as having the constitutional background, having all of the background that we just spoke about, I gotta tell you, I love being an American. I love being an Iranian. I love having both of those cultures deeply ingrained within me growing up here. There is something spectacular about our legal system that other countries on the planet, the modern countries, right, have adopted our legal system. So there are things that, can we change? Absolutely. Will we change? Absolutely. You know, will it be in my lifetime? Maybe not. But there's something about this space called the United States that anything is possible. And you speak about manifestation. You know, if I were in Iran, I would not be manifesting. You know, if I were in Iran, a woman there, it's very clear what my role would be and how far I could go and what I could speak about and what I couldn't speak about. And here, that's not the case. Here, the case is something different, right? And even where there is, you know, a limit on how far I could go, there's enough voices that are echoing mine, and there are enough that were standing next to me to push beyond the boundaries that exist today. And so, yeah, that's the experience of being here.
Thank you for sharing that very personal story, because you share a story that is so familiar to so many immigrant families. It's not a journey that's easy, but it is, with a lot of Americans don't understand that when a lot immigrants come into this country, they have a sense of humility. They are humble, that they feel like visitors, that what else can we do? So we see that they aspire to create and make things better as well.
Absolutely.
You do get one or two cuckoo people here and there, you know. They're going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But generally, when people come to America, this is such a land of opportunities, and it is a land to celebrate. And,
Absolutely.
And what you share is similar here too, that I don't know if I were in any other country, if I would have so many opportunities as I did here in the United States.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So for the young girls, what do you have to say?
You know, we all have had women who have walked before us, right? They've laid the foundation for us to walk on, and walk on their shoulders and walk behind them, and they've guided us. And I would say, find your mentors. Find those that you want to aspire to, and make your connections and have those conversations, and keep the channels of communication open with them, and just soar, just soar.
Why I'm talking about young girls specifically is because one of the things that's occurring in our society is objectification. You know, the media and society telling young girls how to be. So even when they come from different rich cultures, they somehow don't want to hold on to it anymore, or they want to look a certain way as the media is having them, you know, find themselves, which is not true.
Yeah.
That is devastating when we look at the young girls, because that's the future of our country.
Yeah.
And what would you say? What would your message be to young girls in that kind
You
of a
know, I
situation?
don't know if it's just the young girls, or we would add the young men as well. I think it goes to, you know, inside their homes, inside their school systems, inside of our media and our culture that we've created. You know, and that's what Beautiful Reminders starts to talk about, right? Just as an entry point for people, is to see their own selves, to connect with their own soul, to have their spirit be their guider. Because, listen, when we talk about the actual soul that we are, right, that light that is within us, that voice that encourages us and champions us and says, there isn't anything that you can't do. That voice doesn't have gender attached to it. That light doesn't have sexuality attached to it, right? And that is something that is burning within each and every one of us. And I think it's just to have us from that young age all the way to the moment of that you're on your deathbed, that we never disconnect from that space. So I think it's, you know, to encourage media and our educational institutions and the home and elsewhere to start to, you know, chime those bells and rattle those cages that are within us to accentuate the message of our brilliance.
What's your favorite poem out of this book?
Which one? I couldn't say.
Well, what's a special moment that comes to mind, which is...
Well, you know, the way in which this book, it's very similar to how we Iranians are with the great work of Hafiz, the poet Hafiz, the great Hafiz.
Yes.
And so what we do is, and I've shared that in the first portion of the book, is, you know, for every reader to have their prayer, right? To say their prayer, and then to open it up and let the message speak to them. And so you've opened it up
Yes,
to...
I was just going to say that.
actually one of my favorites, I guess I would say. Yeah.
Well, can I read it?
Please do.
Okay, so it's awaken from the slumber, bewitched by the rise, dance to the melody of life, move, flow, breathe, as if it were your time and yours alone to shine. Shine bright, dear ones. Ah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is gorgeous. And I don't know if you can pick up this picture.
Yeah,
but
and
it's got
actually
this...
all the photos I took.
Where was this one?
This one is in Kauai, Honolulu Bay, on the pier. Yeah, so it's through my travels, anywhere I would see a photo that would move me in the moment, I would take. And so there became this dance between the prose and the photos and the photos and the prose. And so the dance is throughout the book.
I love it. I'm going to give this to you, and I would like you to open up a page and read.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. Lean back, far back, into yourself. Allow rest and solace to be your companions. Hush the world outside of you for even a moment, to catch your breath and your soul's desire. Breathe in your magnificence. Go on. Breathe in your purity and strength. Emboldened, walk into your day. Blessings, dear ones.
Enough said. We can do a wrap with that and go home and meditate on that. But isn't that beautiful? I mean, if some were contemplating on a point in life where, you know, we're in crossroads and we don't know, and you get to sit down, have a cup of tea, meditate, whatever you do, and then pick up a book like this and just open up a page, or whatever book that is inspiring, or a spiritual book, or anything that has messages in it. And the divinity is always giving us a foundation of life and giving us direction.
That's right.
So this is such a contribution to people in our everyday world that is easy reading, and it's a way to really imbibe on each word. It's easy, breathe, flow. I love it.
Yeah, actually,
That's
one of
just
my
really
readers
incredible.
wrote on as a note to me and said that she was reading a prose every night to her 2 little girls as their lullaby, and that
Oh.
every night the girls would say, "It's time for the lullaby." And you know, if folks can, you know, there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot going
Yes.
on in our everyday lives. There's a lot going on in the world. If they could just take a moment with any of these prose that they open the page to, and be conscious to the words, be intentional to carry them into their day, be noteworthy of when they're not being those words and when they are being those words, and with whom they are being that and with whom they are not being that, and that includes themselves, that I think that that begins to spark awakening. And it's sparking awakening means the sparking of consciousness. And that awakening in consciousness is going to then, I have no doubt, move the world forward. That in that space, anything's possible.
That's right. Amen to that, sister. That's so true, because it's about tapping into that divinity within.
That's right.
And however you get there, you get there.
That's right.
And I think it's so beautiful that this woman you're talking about, that she's reading it to her 2 children, because I've seen in today's time, children as well are such high conscious beings.
Absolutely.
That they are so tuned in.
Absolutely.
They know what's going on.
Absolutely.
And for them to hear, you know, lullaby, like what? Like, what are those? Well, anyone, doesn't come to my mind right now, but some of them are pretty silly. You know, when you sing them from the past as we were kids, like Ring a Rosie or something, you know, it's not a lullaby, but you know, it's like silly things like that. But when you pick up a book like that, it's easy to read, and kids actually understand it. They get it.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and that's the beauty of.
And then for the adult to really be with those words, right? So there is the ease of them, but then there's the sentiment behind each, right? So to pause with it, as you said, to meditate with it, to explore, where am I using this in my life and where am I not? And that's what excites me, is that space of awakening for people.
Well, Banafsheh, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Thank you
It's
for
been
having
such
me.
a pleasure, and my goodness, it's just so inspiring to get together and chat with you. And usually we have tea, but
next time.
next time we'll have tea together. But
thank you for inviting me.
Such a joy, such a pleasure for you in your contribution to the world,
Thank
and
you.
for what you bring and what people are aspiring to be. Thank you so
Priya.
much.
And what you are doing here for so many.